11 of that meeting would go forward to the World Final itself in September at Wembley. Would they include Michael Lee, the reigning individual champion who's had his problems this year, Dave Jessup, second in last year's championship but winner of the last round, the overseas final, Bruce Pennell, the brilliant American rider with Cradley, who has looked so full of potential, and Ole Olsen, 3 times a world champion and on whose track the Intercontinental final was held. Dave Lanning's report from Vojens, starting with Heat 2, will reveal it all.
Vojens, Denmark, at the start of an evening which we remembered for the events that happened off the track as much as those on. Things started conventionally enough, and the second heat pitted 2 Halifax teammates against each other, Kenny Carter and John Louis, and joining them on the grid, Dennis Sigalos of the USA and Sweden's Jan Andersson. The Vojens Stadium is remarkable for the fact that it's part owned by local hero Ole Olsen, and 2 years ago there was a near riot when the racing was postponed for a day because of rain. So far it's been dry, but the clouds are threatening as Heat 2 gets underway in perfect conditions. It is the English pairing, Louis on the inside and Carter, who get clear on this first lap, and they really develop into a battle royal. Anderson's back in 3rd place, and Louis holds down his younger teammate, who really is challenging both inside and out. Under just a bit of trouble, controls it well back in 2nd place and makes his move now on the inside and just gets the drop on Louis going into lap 3. A purpose-built speedway track here in Denmark, and you can see it is in absolutely superb racing condition early on in the meeting. Carter then, at 21 of the youngest Intercontinental finalists, wins comfortably enough at the end, with Louis in 2nd place and Jan Andersson 3rd. So a good opening race indeed for the 2 English riders. But by Heat 4 the umbrellas were up and the old Danish proverb, it never poins but it pours, was being fulfilled. But this heat proved to be the start of a splendid evening for the American from Cradley, Bruce Pennell, in grid 2. 2 Danes, Trevor Eriksson and Tommy Knudsen, and England's favourite Dave Jessup provided the opposition. But it really was Pennell right from the start. The American makes a flying getaway, looking back over his shoulder. We look for Jessup, who is not comfortable in the rain. He's back in 3rd place. In 2nd there it's Tommy Knudsen from Denmark. And conditions at this time were just a little bit on the sticky side. Pennell, of course, from California. Skipper of the Cradley side, doing so very well in the British League this year. Already has a share in the World Pairs Crown. We saw him winning that in Katowice with fellow Californian Bobby Schwartz. And Pennell's in complete control here of Heat 4. Jessup slowing up back in 3rd place, we can see. He's obviously far from happy with conditions. Bruce Pennell goes across the line, picking up 3 early points most comfortably. But as he cruises back to the pits, a most significant tune came over the tannoy. She was afraid to come out of the water in her itsy-bitsy, teeny-weeny yellow polka dot bikini, and as the riders fell to emerge for the next heat, it seemed that they too were afraid to go back onto the surface water. Arguments raged in the pits for the next hour and a half. The riders called a vote and by 14-2 decided they wouldn't go back to the track. Significantly, Olsen and Nielsen wanted to continue. And there's Olsen looking out at the swamp he part owns. But the referee, a Pole Roman Tilbadze, issued an ultimatum: get riding or drop out of the World Championship. So, grudgingly albeit, the riders reappeared. And heat 6 featured two of the American challengers, Dennis Sigalos and Pennell in the red helmet. Ollie Olsen was obviously on his mettle now, and another Dane, Erik Gundersen, made up the field. The track had in fact been totally resurfaced, and two Danish juniors had tested it to make sure it was rideable. The compromise was that 4 heats would be run before another inspection. But how would change conditions affect Bruce Pennell's form? Well, the answer came right from the start. You can see Pennell again has made a pincher gate from grid 1, and he's beginning to spread eagle the field. Sigalos, we lost here, did a 360-degree turn. Miraculously, somehow he stayed on. But it's Pennell in front of his friendly teammate Erik Gundersen. And Pennell, again, in complete command. See, the track is very slippery, but it's hardly slowed the Californian down a jot. In fact, he was only something like a second slower than his times in the earlier races when conditions were near perfect. We're into the last lap. Pennell now is beginning to look every inch a future champion. Really has stretched a class field here in Heat 6. Goes over the line, moves on to 6 points. Gundersen is second, but Ollie Olsen back in third, making no impression. Must have been left with a few worries about qualification. Kenny Carter of England, they're preparing for his next race, and with 4 points after 2 rides, he looks well set for his first World Final. The leaderboard at this stage reads Pennell a clear leader on 6 points, then Gundersen and Nielsen on 5, 4 Englishmen, Carter, Lee, Morton and Jessup on 4, and former champions Olsen and Major struggling just a little on 3. Coming into Heat 11 now, the rain, despite all those brollies, maybe easing off just a little, and this heat looked likely to be one of the most important of the evening. Full points man Pennell on the outside, the struggling Ivan Major, reigning champion Michael Lee, and the lively Carter on the inside. To get a little tense at this stage. Remember, only 11 qualification places for the World Final at Wembley. Michael Lee, the white helmet as always, seems to be impatient to get moving. But it is Major who makes the hash of the first corner, and that allows Carter and Pennell away down the back straight. And we remember that these two had a rare old set to in the overseas final, and quite soon they ended up going through the fence together and had some harsh words afterwards. But Pennell really rides a brave, bold, flying first lap, gets around the outside, has the drop, and from then on, well, again, he's looking every inch a champion. Pennell with time to look back over his shoulder. Carter has tucked in behind him, and Major is a long way back. It's a third win for Bruce Pennell, another splendid effort, and that proved to be the end of his hard work for the evening. His last 2 rides were easy victories, and he finished with maximum points. A very worthy Intercontinental champion who mastered all the weather could throw at him. The track was judged to be okay, but the riders still were a little apprehensive. Here's John Louis digging in for Heat 12. He was up against 3 Danes, and the local crowd were hoping that this race could consolidate World Final qualification for at least 2 of their brilliant youngsters. Did flourish briefly, it is the Danes who carved it up with Gunderson stretching away and Nielsen moving into second place behind him. Very large crowd, almost capacity here at Vojens, although they've been standing in the rain for something like 2.5 hours at this stage. Their enthusiasm being lifted by the performance of their young riders. They really have moved on in the most impressive start of the past couple of seasons. And Eric Gunderson is probably the most improved youngster on the world scene this season. Professed to have big night nerves, but really didn't show many on this occasion. Salutes his first world final, going over the line with his arms raised in triumph. He really could be a spoiler at Wembley. The very happy Danes, Gunderson the winner, and the crowd, well rewarded for their patience and enthusiasm. So then let's move on to Heat 14, which proved that the referee was, to my mind, totally correct in allowing the event to continue, and shows that real racing and passing were not only possible on a wet track, but made for even more skillful and exciting racing. Olsen it is who gets to the corner first. Around the outside of him goes Carter, and watch for Chris Morton on the inside. He's in the yellow and black helmet colour, who moved from third up to first, and then Carter moved back after him, challenged down the inside, and then really a first lap of rich excitement there in Heat 14. Although Olsen made a bit of a hash of the first corner, he's still battling away for the odd point at the back against Preben Eriksson. England leading Denmark. Olsen still moving in now to third place, but he's a long way back. And the Englishman who carved up that first corner lost Eriksson there on the top corner. So 3 only, keep going. Eriksson unhurt. That fall affected his chances of a Wembley place. Unconcerned, the Englishman, Kenny Carter, moving over the line. Second place was Morton, and Olsen could only manage 1 point there. Another win for Carter, who's been revelling in these muddy conditions. Eriksson's falls helps Olsen. Let's have a look at the start again. We can see Olsen gets to the corner first. He's on the inside. He really misses the corner completely. And it looked like Kenny Carter had got round the outside. But now we just look for Chris Morton, who's made a terrific run on the inside, moves up into the lead. But Kenny Carter's not finished by any means. And he dives on the inside, showing ruthless aggression, gets by, and is on his way for 3 more points. And the next important heat was number 16. It was Ivan Major's testing time. With only 3 points to date, he couldn't afford to let anything slip. But the Danes were in tune with the water music on the night, and Major was forced back to minor. Hans Nielsen and Tommy Knudsen saw to that. Major used all his experience to get to the first corner in front, but he's passed first by Knudsen and then by Nielsen. And the Danish crowd really are rising to their new young brigade. Here's Knudsen, he's in front. Second place is Nielsen, looking happy just to sit back there in second place. And Ivan Major is trailing in third. With the Coventry Bees in British League Racing as the reigning Nordic champion, really has come on a ton in the past couple of seasons. Still only 19, so he has the opportunity of becoming the youngest ever rider to win the World Speedway Crown. The youngest title holder thus far is Peter Craven, who won it in 1955 when he was just 21 years, 86 days old. Win will surely make sure that Knudsen goes to his first world final. A very happy Danish crowd celebrating because the Danes are having a field night. There is Knudsen, there is Nielsen. So the standings after 4 races each. We have Bruce Pennell on 12 points, Gunderson, Carter and Nielsen on 9, Morton, Lee and Knudsen now on 8, Jessup and Anderson on 7. They all look safe for Wembley. But Heat 19, and this is the one that sorted out the minor placings, and especially important for Larry Ross. He's in the blue helmet in grid 2. He's got Michael Lee inside him, Ericsson and Sigalos outside him. It is Ross who gets away. In second place, Ericsson still in with a chance of qualification. Third place is Lee. Lee overshoots the pits corner, goes down in a rather untidy looking heap, leaving the field thinning considerably with Ross in front, Ericsson second, Sigalos is tailed way off at the back. What an unhappy night for the American. Larry Ross looking well set. Been a reserve for a world final before, has never made the meeting proper. 3 points here will do the trick for him. Ericsson too could go to Wembley in a second place as the reserve. He does a very silly thing there at the top corner, slips off, and at that point it looked like Wembley had just eluded his grasp. We follow Larry Ross around the bottom corner, but in fact Dennis Sigalos slid off on that bottom corner. Ericsson was allowed to remount. As Ross goes over the line, he makes sure of his Wembley place. He'll be the only New Zealander there too, and that really is a surprise. Ericsson went across in second place, so he'll go to Wembley as reserve. Larry Ross, the lone Kiwi, following the great traditions of New Zealanders in world finals, of course, Barry Briggs, Ivan Major and Ronnie Moore. But those are the qualifiers for Wembley. As we can see, 4 Englishmen getting through, and significantly 4 Danes.
And those 11 riders, together with 5 from the rest of the world, will appear in the world final in September, and I'll bring you the draw order in just a few moments. But first, let's get the views of 2 riders who feel very strongly about the conditions at Vojens. First, the winner, Bruce Pennell, talking to Nick Owen.
Yeah, I was very happy to get the meeting over with, actually, because you prepare yourself not only all year long, but your whole life to get to Wembley to a world championship. And it was really nice to get it over with, but I was very unhappy with the track conditions, and so was about 15 of the other riders. In my own heart, deep down inside, I don't think the races should have carried on. The referee sits up in his box, and he's the one that decides whether we're going to race or not. Well, he's not the one that's racing on the track and sticking out his neck. Well, like I said, you know, we work so hard and so long, and it's very dangerous because you stick your neck out so much on a dry surface, let alone when the track is so waterlogged and so difficult to ride, you just cannot pass. Actually, that meeting would have been a better meeting to watch than the world final. I mean, as far as riders are concerned. They didn't get to see as good as racing as would have been under the dry conditions, and the result could have been different. You know, you never can tell, but we're happy it's over with now, and like I said, I wasn't very happy with the conditions at all.
What would you like done about this? Because it's the referee's decision, isn't it?
Well, first of all, yeah, it was the referee's decision, and he was from Poland. And I think the referees should be made mandatory that they must speak English. Now, we had a problem communicating with the referee, and we had a Danish interpreter, and you know, he was the clerk of the course, and he wanted the meeting to go on. So what the riders were saying to the referee could have been altered a little bit. You never can tell, because I myself, I can't speak any other language, and I know a few of the other boys can't, fluently anyway. So I think they should be able to make mandatory that the referees speak English, so we can communicate with the referees a little better and understand our point of view, you know, as well as the referees.
To be quite honest, I was disgusted with the attitude of the organisers in Vojens, and particularly the referee, because in my case it wasn't so important to qualify. You know, I'd like to qualify, but there was a lot of young riders in that meeting who were really desperate to get in their first meeting, and boys like Eric Gunderson from Cradley, who's going really good lately, he did well in that meeting, and Dennis Sigalos, who didn't qualify, you know, particularly those type of riders, they're going very good, but they're inexperienced at that level. And I could see someone was going to do something desperate. But, you know, the promoters weren't very interested, and the organisers, the Danish Motor Union people, really arrogant of getting the riders underway, and the referee also. very arrogant, wouldn't speak English, only spoke Polish and German. I know he can speak English, but he wouldn't listen to anybody. And you know, I don't know how they would have gone home and slept if some of those young guys who were desperate would have been injured.